So here we have it. The man of the hour. Former MLB player that played in the league for 16 years. Two-time All-Star, World Series champion, and a personality that shines. Please welcome Ryan, the Canadian sensation, Dempster, in the house, baby. How are you?
Yes. Good intro. The Canadian sensation. I like it.
You like that, right?
Careful. If I get you on the my finishing move, the Vancouver maneuver. So
Oh, the
it'll
Vancouver.
happen.
Yeah. So speaking of Canada, I say to myself, where you grew up in Gibson's, British Columbia, near Vancouver, right? Was baseball big there?
Big. I don't know. Actually, it was like surprisingly popular. Like we had a ton of slow pitch tournaments that came to our town all the time. So that was always happening on weekends. And then Little League was huge. Like we had a ton of Little League teams for this little small town. It was like every kid played. But then what happened was, as you got a little older, it started to fizzle out. Like you got to that like 14, 15-year-old range. The talent pool got a lot smaller. The competition got a lot weaker. So I was kind of put in a position to take the ferry boat over to Vancouver and start playing over there.
Okay, well, that was a good adjustment. What about hockey? I mean, I know hockey's huge in that country, right?
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, my little town, we had a hockey rink, but it was 30 minutes away. So, and I had two younger brothers, and my mom was going like hockey practice back to another hockey practice back. So she just laid it out there. She said, listen, you can play every sport and no hockey, or just hockey and no other sports. I'm not doing all this all the time. So me and my brothers both loved everything else. We played soccer, we played basketball, football a little bit. So it was like, all right, let's just stay and not focus on hockey. Plus, I skated like Happy Gilmore, so it was a good pick.
So, like, were you the man in high school baseball? Were you like the stud? Were you like, holy shit, this is the guy?
Yeah, probably by the time I was like 17, it started to happen. I went into the city and started playing. Like I said, there I was good as a 15-year-old. I was pretty good as a 16. I was a good baseball player. I had a good arm. I wasn't the strongest hitter, as by my .099 career batting average will throw that out at you. But I did. I had an arm that people recognized. Like, whoa! Like, so then when all of a sudden I played for Team Canada on the World Junior teams, and then that's kind of when I just started to take off. And then you're pitching in front of 30 scouts sitting there with their radar guns up, and my uncle holding a hairdryer.
Hairdryer.
True story. Eddie, he did that, dude. He's got a picture of him amongst all the scouts holding up my aunt's hairdryer. It was just classic.
Oh, man. I wish I had that picture. Damn. All right. So, but then did you get a scholarship to Notre Dame or something like that? Did you have offers?
I did, yeah, a couple different offers. I visited schools. Washington State was really a big one. Arizona State was interested. And I went to Notre Dame on a recruiting trip. And Coach Paul Maneri, who later on went to LSU, and Brian O'Connor, who's the head coach at Virginia, he was the pitching coach. They recruited me, and I just loved them. And so I signed a letter of intent to go there, but eventually got drafted in the third round. And the Rangers made me a good offer. And I'll never forget this. My dad sitting there, So, we grew up in this small little town. My parents were young parents. They had me. My mom was, there they are.
See that?
And so my dad says, let me get this straight. So your mom didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. Your grandparents didn't go. And now you're going to turn down a full ride to the University of Notre Dame so you can go play baseball. And I was like, yeah. And he said to me, what if baseball doesn't work out? And he said this was a defining moment for him to know it was right. I just kind of snapped at him real quick. I said, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, okay, that's not an option for you. And so, off I signed. And unfortunately for Coach Maneri, wasn't in his rotation, but things worked out for the both of us.
Ryan, I always tell people, get rid of the two words, what if. If you really feel you have a shot, then you got to go for it, right? I mean, you can't have 1% doubt.
Yeah, well, you got to have talent, especially being an athlete.
Well, I'm talking about when you're at that level, you got the talent, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But you got to say to yourself, look, there's one goal: is to make it to the big leagues, and it's not just to make it to the big leagues; it's staying there.
Yeah, and that was my whole goal. Was 20 years in the league. From the time I was a kid, I'm going to play 20 years and I'm going to, win a World Series and I'm going to go to All-Star. I had all these thoughts. I came up short on a few things, never won a Cy Young, never quite played the 20 years, but that's a different story. But you really have to have that attitude because no matter who you are, there's a very few exceptions. I mean, even the greatest players in the game today, look at Mike Trout. He was drafted, late in the first round. He wasn't the number one overall pick. There was a lot of people who doubted whether or not he'd be a successful big leaguer. You're going to have doubt. You're going to have failure for sure. And you're going to have injuries to overcome. And so you're going to have all this different adversity that comes at you. And if you have maybe it's not for, you're probably not going to get through some of that adversity somewhere. And so you have to kind of have that attitude that you're bad. Like you can do this, man. Nobody's going to mess with you. 2, that you'll overcome whatever it is. And there is no what ifs because that was never an option. And I think most successful athletes, that really isn't much of an option for them. The what if doesn't really creep in there.
Right, exactly. Well, it's the same thing in acting in the showbiz. I mean, if you really feel like you're the guy, then you can't say what if when you start out back in the days, So now, all right, so here's my question, right? Texas Rangers drafted you. You're like, oh yeah, baby, I'm feeling good, right? But then you get traded all of a sudden. Were you hurt?
Yeah, I cried.
You cried?
I was like, yeah, I had the vanity license plate, the Texas Rangers. I was going to be a Ranger for life. I was going to be pitching to Pudge Rodriguez and, going to live in my childhood dream, Nolan Ryan's shoes one day and be out there on the mound in Arlington. And all of a sudden, I got all these bonds with guys that I'm rooming with and teammates with, and we're all going to get to the big leagues together. And boom, you get traded. And I got drafted in 1995, signed by the Rangers, and I'm traded in 1996. And it was devastating. And I just remember showing up, Brad Arnsberg, former New York Yankee at one point, big league pitching coach for quite a long time. He was my minor league pitching coach at the time. And I show up to his room and tears in my eyes, and he was consoling me. And he said, "What happened?" And I said, "I got traded." And he started laughing. And I'm like, "What are you laughing about?" He goes, "Man, you came to my room. I thought somebody died. I didn't know what was going on. I thought something bad happened. Maybe you went to jail last night and I had to try and help you." And I was like, "No, I got traded." He goes, "This is great." He goes, "Every time you get traded, remember this, especially when you're a prospect, it means somebody wants you really bad. And they were willing to give a big league pitcher to get you." So, that says a lot. And it really changed my kind of understanding of it all. And it helped me honestly understand the business side a little bit of it and just realize that I'm just going to do whatever I have to do, and I'm probably going to wear multiple different uniforms.
All right, so where were you when you got that call up against the Pittsburgh Pirates, right? Was that it?
Yeah.
Now, how do they deliver the message to you? All right, talk to me. Be specific about this because I want these people to really feel what you went through with that success. You get that call, baby. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let me preface this, first of all, is in spring training of 1998, when I got my call up, I got sent to minor league camp by Jim Leland before minor league camp started. So, I was not making the team. It was not an option. Right. And he calls me in the office. He goes, "Hey, Dumper, listen, man, you're not going to make the team, so we're going to send you out of here." And I said, "Well, hold on. Well, minor league camp doesn't start for 3 days." He goes, "I don't know, go to the beach." And I was like, and then Eddie, I go, "What about my meal money I just got?" Because I just got meal money that day. When you're not a minor league guy, that's a lot of cheese, And I'm like, "What about my meal money?" He goes, "I'd go to the track if I was you." And I was like, "All right, I'm going to the track and the beach. I guess it is 3 days." I had a great 3 days. So now I go up and I'm in Double-A. I'm in Portland for the Sea Dogs, and I'm pitching for them. And I'm supposed to pitch against the Mets, the Binghamton Mets in Binghamton, New York. And I walk from the hotel to the field. And I walk in, the starting pitcher tends to get there or used to get there, a little bit after the team did. And I walk in and I see the lineup card and I'm like, my name's whited out. I'm healthy. Everything's good. Nobody's called me. Nobody's said anything. So I walk in the office and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? I'm not pitching today." And my manager looks at me and he says, "Hey, listen, you're going up. We just don't know where." And so in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to AAA. This is awesome." They just don't know if I'm going on the road or I'm going to Charlotte. What's the deal here? So now I'm in the stands, and then this thing starts brewing in my head. I'm like, why didn't they just tell me I'm going to Charlotte? I'm doing the radar gun. I'm charting in the stands. And Britt Burns was our minor league pitching coordinator. and Britt, former AL Rookie of the Year with the White Sox, nasty left-handed pitcher back in the day, and he's just sitting next to me, and he keeps eyeballing me, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at me, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to the concession stand in between innings, and I just said, "Hey, Britt, can I get you anything?" And he said, "I'll take a 3/4 ton Ford pickup if you got any extra cash now." And I was like, "What?" And I looked at him, and he takes his hand out, and he goes, "Congratulations, son, you're going to the big leagues." And I was like, "What? No way!
Wait, that was from Double A?
From Double A to the big leagues. So I had 6 starts in Double A. The year before I was in High A, and then I had 6 starts in Double A, and then I was in the big leagues.
Okay, so what'd you do?
7, maybe 7 starts. I might have 7. Yeah.
So who'd you call first? Your parents, I'm assuming.
Yeah, mom and dad right away. Yeah.
And then what was it like? I'm going to, where was it, in Florida? Or was it in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, no, I was at home in Florida, and I said, "Listen, I'm going up. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know, you know." And at the time, my mom was like deathly afraid to fly, like BA Baracus A-team stuff, you know.
Oh shit!
It's like we're gonna have to load up a cheeseburger with something to get her on a plane, like. So they actually didn't come down for a little while because it was a lot. It was a lot. They didn't know. I didn't know how long I was going to be up. Is this just a little stopgap, you know, or whatever it is? So I was just like, all right, let me just kind of figure this out, and then went out there and pitched against the Pirates. I warmed up like 3 times before I actually went in. They kept getting me up and down. So, I mean, like the heart. If you could have had a heart rate monitor attached to me in that moment, like I probably would have got admitted, because the spike in elevated heart rate, and then the come down off that, and then the spike back. I'm going in. No, you're not. Oh man, you know. And then I went out there, and my first inning, I had a 1-2-3 inning, 2 groundouts and a strikeout. So it was pretty special.
So when you got to the big leagues, did Leland say anything to you? Did he say, "Hey, welcome, boy," or what was it?
He just said, "Hey, you know, go out there, do your best. You know, I know you're coming from Double A, but we need arms up here, and just show us what you got." So I was like, "All right, let me go do that." First person I ever met in a big league locker room, by the way. And if I asked 100,000 people, 100,000 people would never guess. This Florida Marlin teammate was the first guy. I'll give you one guess. And he was only there a short amount of time. It was a part of 2 big trades. Played in New York for a long time.
Played in New York for a long time. So you came in 98. They won the World Series in 97. He was part of that. He was part of the 97.
No, he was part of the trade, and then he got flipped to another team.
Well, shit. Then it was Piazza then.
Yeah, Mike Piazza.
Yeah.
So that was like super cool. Here I was in high school, like, you know, 3 years ago, watching Mike Piazza like hit opposite field home runs off dudes, and he was so awesome. He was like, just take it all in. Good luck, stay healthy, work hard, man. It's hard to beat. He was so great. Have fun. He was my teammate for 5 days, and he got traded, and then I ended up facing him a bazillion times.
And he hits bombs.
Yeah, he hit a few. He hit the longest home run I ever gave up.
Now, Ryan, here's my question. You know, I mean, I played college ball down in Florida, Palm Beach Atlantic University, and I was a hitter. Now, when you have a shitty bullpen before you start, right? You're in the big league stadium. Do you feel like, oh shit, man, I'm gonna get shelled? My slider's not locating. You know, do you have thoughts like that?
Yeah. At times you like kind of like maybe like walking in to your pitching coach and just like, "Hey man, I might have somebody ready to go." Like, you know. But at the same time, I've had some really crappy bullpens, you know, even in the minor leagues, like warm-ups, and then gone out there and pitched really well. So you always have this kind of hope that that's how it can be. You know, sometimes also it works the opposite, Eddie, where you're like nails in the bullpen. You're like, "God, man, I just wasted 20 good pitches down there because I dotted those."
Right.
You know, so it can be different. You know, it can be a lot different by the time you walk in there and just, I don't know, something triggers you. You just get locked in that moment. It's just like if you have a bad first inning, it's not the end of the world. You can get locked in.
Right. Now, with the Marlins organization, I read this, that you guys are getting spanked. You're in the dugout, and you're just shooting the shit with laps. And Leland, he was pissed. Tell me that story.
Yeah, it really changed the dynamic of our entire organization. So because we had all these young guys, all these rookies that came up, it was a complete teardown, right? I mean, you traded away guys like, you know, Gary Sheffield, and Moises Salou is gone now, and Kevin Brown and Al Leiter, all these guys. I mean, you go down the list of Devon Whites, all these people, they got traded and they were gone, right? Rob Nen, we sucked. we were, but we thought we were the shit, like we were
Right.
good, man. We're big leaguers. And we're out there getting our tails kicked every night. And Jim, poor guy, like this guy wins a World Series, and brings one to South Florida. And it's like, that's how he got rewarded with, I'm going to trade all your good players away and I'm going to bring guys up from Double A.
Oh, wow.
So kudos to him. He never really got on us. Like, I mean, he did, but it wasn't like he wasn't yelling at us all the time. He wasn't mad all the time. It was just like frustrating. You could see the frustration on his face. So a guy on the team tells a joke, and I love jokes, and I laugh, and we're laughing, and we're losing 16-4 in the Astrodome. And he always would smoke cigarettes, and he'd hold them kind of just like, and he'd puff on them in the dugout like this, so you couldn't see, And I see him, and he's like, at the end of the dugout, so he's kind of facing like this, and he just puffs on it, and he just goes, and he looks at us, and he's just like, and he throws it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, you got me there?
Yeah, I see you.
Assuming, okay. So I'm just like, kind of just like freaking out a little. I'm like, oh boys, we're we're in trouble right now. Like we're in big trouble, man. And sure enough, game ends and we get up, we lose 24. And the cafeteria doors that they had at Clubhouse in Houston, they were like these double doors and he wore spikes and you just heard this boom, door opens up. If I ever see another one of you pitchers laughing, we're out here getting our ass kicked, I'll have you out of here so fast your head will spin. You think I'm fucking around, you try me, boys. Guys coming from A-ball and Double A with 5 ERAs, and you think you're big leaguers? Well, I got news for you, boys. You guys stink. Every last one of you stink, with the exception of a few of you. And you know who you are. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to all you guys driving around in your fancy cars, wearing your fancy suits, paying your clubhouse dues, thinking you're big leaguers. Well, you stink. You stink. Every one of you stink. And then he'd stop and he'd get all like, guys, hey, listen, I wish I could come up here and tell you how great you guys are. I really do. I wish I could tell you how awesome you are. Well, you're not. You suck. Every one of you suck. And he put it to us.
Wow.
And then he left. Yeah, but it was okay. Like, it wasn't.
Well, hold on,
Ryan.
Ryan. A manager wearing spikes? That's unheard of.
Well, my only guess is that if we were really bad, he just took one of us out and put himself in. That's all. That's my only thought I had.
Okay. Okay. All right. But go
That's
ahead,
the only thing I
continue.
thought. So he does this, right? And he goes and he leaves. And I know he's talking to me. Like, I got to get out of here, So I go to stand up, and Jay Powell was his reliever, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, hey, sit back down, dude. He's coming back. I go, what do you mean he's coming back? And sure. And another thing. And door goes open again, and he goes up and down us. And he does this 5 times, right? He goes 5 times where he unleashes on us. And on the 5th time, and by the way, I've left this out in the past. Each time he would go into his locker room, he'd come back with one last article of clothing on. So, like, he'd go in there and he'd take his jersey and his shirt off, and he came back in his pants. And then he went in and he took his pants off. Now he's barefoot and he's in his underwear, And he comes back out and he says, I'm going to my office, and I'm going to take a shower, and I'm going to have a whiskey and a cigar. And if I come back out here and there's anybody in this locker room, I'm calling the cops, and I'm having you arrested for impersonating a Major League Baseball player. Now get the hell out of here.
Well, how do you not love a manager like that? How do you not love
it? And I'll tell you what, I said this, he put us all in our place because you're talking about it. 10-year careers, the guys that were there, Kevin Millar, Derek Lee, Louis Castillo, Alex Gonzalez, Mike Lowell, Preston Wilson, Mark Kotze, Cliff Floyd, myself, Brad Penny. Like, you go down the list, and it was like, who knows? All of these guys had careers, not a job in the big leagues. They all played 10-plus years. World Series champions, World Series MVPs, All-Stars, all this stuff. So it was incredible, man. He was awesome.
There was a thing. I saw one of your videos because, of course, I got to do research on my man Demp. You know what I mean? Like, he's the man. And you said Mike Messina told you play catch with a purpose. Tell me why. What does that mean? Just a catch, a regular catch? Go ahead. Elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, I was a kid who came up and, like, I never really had problems throwing strikes like in high school or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then even in the minor leagues, I didn't walk a lot of guys. I threw strikes. And then I got to the big leagues and I got scared in it for a little bit. Like, just because of the facts we talked about earlier. I was in double A. I was not ready for the big leagues. That's okay. I was learning on the job, but it was intimidating. I'm facing dudes in the middle of the steroid era, and dudes are hitting balls off the top of the back wall of the upper deck all over the place. I was nervous, and so and then what happened was I started to figure out like to get away from that. But then I was struggling with command, and we're playing Baltimore in South Florida at Pro Player Stadium, and Mike Messina's running polls, and like I wasn't afraid to approach guys, so I was like, I'm gonna go talk to him. This is one of the best strike throwers this game's ever seen. Some of the best command of fastball as good as anybody. So I just went over and I said, "Hey, Mike," introduced myself. I said, "Can I ask a question? How do you command the baseball so well? Like, what is your thought process?" And he goes, "It starts with your when you're playing catch." He's like, "Play catch with a purpose. Throw to a target. Don't just throw to the other guy. What does that do for you? It does nothing." He goes, "Pick out the logo on his hat. See how many times out of 5 you can hit it. Go for the belt buckle 5 times. Go for a knee. Go for a shoulder." And it really kind of helped me a lot. Just transition into understanding what that meant. And so and then doing that in bullpen sessions where it's not let me see how hard I can throw it. Let me see where I can throw it. And he helped me a lot in that moment just with that. I don't think enough young guys do that even at the youth age. Like I know playing catch is fun, but like make a game out of it. How many times can we do this? I mean, how many times can I hit you in your logo on your chest? Like me and you we're playing catch and we're catch partners. Let's go for who's buying lunch today?
Right.
We're going out of 50 throws. How many who can hit here the most? And it really just helped me. So yeah, hats off, man. That was a big favor that Mike Messina did a little young guy out in South Florida.
Speaking of that, location doesn't mean necessarily you have to throw a strike all the time. I mean, you have an 0-2 count. You want to brush him back a little bit. You go for high and in, right? Or you go high and away or something like that. And then with the slider.
People forget that, Eddie. It's like people go, "How many pitches do you throw?" And it's like, well, I throw 4 pitches with my fastball. And they're like, "What?" It's like, well, I got up and away, up and in, down and away, down and in.
Right.
You don't, not too many times. I mean, we've seen a little bit more with up middle, because that's a good play now with the swing path being lower. So the up middle, but, I hate to do this to you, Alex Bregman, right? His up and in is poor. But if you miss by 2 to 3 inches down, it's a home run. And so that's the difference when you start flirting with up middle. If you come down a little bit, you're in trouble. But when you go up in the 4 quadrants, so you have all these other pitches. Greg Maddux would say, "Hey man, see if you can get through an entire lineup the first time through with just your fastball." Right. Because now you've opened up. You can pitch 4 times through the lineup. If you get guys out and you haven't shown them any breaking balls, any off speed pitches, and you can go through a lineup like that just by moving your fastball around. There's just so many quadrants to a strike zone, and even though the box lights up, right? This hitter's hitting, he's hitting 110 on fastballs at his hands. Cool. They're big league hitters, If you keep throwing at that spot, eventually they're going to be like, "Okay, dude, I'm going to cheat, go in there." But if you go like in that circle, then you go down over here, and then you go up here, and you go right back to that circle when you need it, now you're an out. As long as you execute. So yeah, there's just many different ways to go about it. I split these seams right here with my finger, and then I brought my whole hand up on the ball like that. So my fingers are up like that, and then my thumb was almost circle change on the other side. And for me, I really dug in there deep and held it like that. And then what it would do is it would pop out at you, and as it spins, it goes whoom, and then it falls off the table. So, you're right. It was career changing because, I was fastball slider guy, and then I had Tommy John, and that's a lot of taxing fastball slider, high velocity, and then started throwing that split, and it was like, now I could get lefties out, I neutralized lefties, and then I had the ability to even throw that to righties as long as it was, located down and in. Because if you throw arm side, change up to a righty, and I'm a righty, if I don't leave that middle of the plate, and I even leave it up, but it's inside, no right-handed hitter out there, very few right-handed hitters out there are going to keep that fair. They're just going to pull it foul, so it's almost like you're getting a free strike. You're in a 2-1 count, throw a split inside, and they pull it foul. Okay, cool, awesome. Now I'm back in the 2-strike count.
When you got released by the Cincinnati Reds, now you're human. You're only 26 years old at the time, right? Were you thinking, how am I going to support my family? Are thoughts coming in like that?
Yeah, tough thoughts are in there. More so, like at the time, I was coming up on that last year of free agency,
Hmm.
or last year arbitration before free agency. So it was like it couldn't have happened as far as a career goes, probably at a worse time. You're getting into that 5+ year of arbitration. You're actually about to make some real money, and boom, I have Tommy John. But I also knew I was young, and I knew adversity. Guys had come back from Tommy John. Um, the numbers were good. They're not like what they are now, but they were really good as far as success rate. And so the Reds actually did me a solid. Um, I asked, you guys going to tender me a contract? And they said no. And I said, can you just release me now? So they actually released me like right as the season ended. So then I had all that time leading up to start talking with teams and be able to be a free agent. And then the Cubs were great. Jim Hendry, signed me to a 1 year deal, major league deal with a team option. So as long as I was healthy, I got to be, with the team for rehab. And as long as I was healthy, they would pick that option up. And all those things kind of played into place. And that's exactly what it did.
So they looked out for you then, pretty much.
Yeah, they really did. Like, you can go down to like Arizona and Florida. I get it. It's great. But at that time, I was going on my 6th year in the league,
Hmm.
and with a new team. So like, if I go to Arizona and I just rehab down there, they don't know who I am. Like a lot of those guys, some of those guys do because maybe they're ex teammates or I played against them. But now I got to actually like be around the guys and bond. I got to sit my butt next to Greg Maddux during the game and take a thesis in pitching. Like
Wow.
I got to be around all these, great starters, Pryor, Woods, and Brano, Clement, watch what they're doing, be around Larry Rothschild, throw my side work with Larry on my side, and get his input. And so they really, really looked out for me and took good care of me and ended up playing 9 years there.
So listen, the 9 years there, I mean, money was coming in well, huh? I mean, you signed that contract, you're like, oh, hell yeah, this is the life now, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it was good. Yeah, 2 multi-year deals there, so you don't get that very often.
so now, here's my question to you. Let's say I get Tommy John tomorrow morning. And what is it? November 2nd will be tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
When can you actually throw a baseball? What month?
After month 5, so 4 months post op. So you go through 4 months of rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I actually waited a couple extra weeks. I went to like 4.5 months just because the season was over. I wasn't rushing back for anything. I want to make sure, but somewhere right around the 4 month mark. So then you're building that up, and that takes like another, 8 months. And then you get into game shape where you're like, okay, let me go start pitching 1 inning at a time. And then by the time, a year comes around, I think mine was roughly a year to the date or a couple of days before 1 year. And then you're back at it.
Was it a sharp pain when you were like, man, my elbow's killing
Uh,
me? Yeah.
Yeah, it hurt all the time. It hurt almost the whole entire year. And I was pitching. Actually, funny story. I pitched a game against I believe it was the Phillies. I'm pretty sure it was the Phillies. Yeah, and I was going to play Muirfield in Dublin, Ohio, because Kent Merker, left-handed pitcher, was a member there, and he's been. We had an off day, and it kind of lined up that we could actually get up there and go play a round of golf and enjoy 36 holes at Muirfield. And we're partnered up with Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill and his friend are going to play with us. So now we get to the driving range, and the first wedge I hit, like I get back, I come down, I'm just like, oh, I buckle over in pain. I'm just like, oh man, oh. And Merck always tells a great story because like he's been dying to play, right? Like he's been wanting to get the chance. We're here in Cincinnati. He lives up the road, but it just hadn't worked out. And he's just like, yeah, yeah, you know what? Just stretch it. He yells at me across the range. And he says he stands back over the ball and goes, hey, dude, we're playing. I don't care how bad your elbow hurts. We're playing right now. And I got out there. I played like 11 holes. I couldn't go any farther. And then, I mean, if you went from an extension standpoint, I could get my arm to go to like right there. That was it.
Right.
And I could get it to touch to like right there. So like now I can almost get it out and I can touch my shoulder. Things I couldn't do, in 2003 for sure.
And then, now, what was it like playing for Lou Piniella? Like what's the difference
Awesome.
between Lou and Jimmy Leland? Are they both same a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit of the same competitive fire, same rationale as far as what you need to do to be successful in the major leagues. I had a chance to close for Lou and I had a chance to start for Lou. And it was two different things. To him, I felt like, other than being the closer, relievers were interchangeable parts. Give me a new reliever if this guy's not very good. But he He loved his starting pitchers. He realized how important starting pitching is. He's smart enough, one of the smartest baseball guys I was around. He knows you win with starting pitching. Fact. Look at the teams that are in the World Series right now. It's their offenses, sure, they're great. They pitch. And so it was like he always looked out for you. Are you good? Can you go more? Do you want to go more? Do you want to go less? There was just a lot of that, and he knew how hitting very well. So I would pick his brain about what hitters were thinking in order to translate into what I was thinking, and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to attack guys. So he was great. I loved like the umpire. Like there was nothing better when Lou went, ballistic on Mark Wagner at third base, and turned our season around. Or the time in Colorado, I'll never forget this. We're in Colorado, and it's like the second inning. I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday day game. He had a little bit of a late night with Matty Sinatro having martinis the night before, and he didn't want to be hanging around for the crap we were throwing out on the field. And so there's a play at second base, and for whatever reason in Colorado, I know it's the same distance, but it seemed like it was a country mile away. And Lou goes running out there. He gets thrown out. He comes running back. He's short of breath because we're at the high altitude. He's as red as a fire hydrant. We're all worried about him. We're like, somebody get him some oxygen, hurry! And he's just like huffing and puffing. And he goes upstairs, and I kind of follow him. He goes right into his office, door closed. Well, now all of a sudden, the eighth inning comes on, and the door opens, and he's got his hair like he combed it with a pork chop, and he's just like in his undies, and he'd been asleep. He just like, screw it, I'm taking a nap. And he comes out, and we're getting our asses kicked, and he just looks up and he goes, yeah, I thought so. Hey, where's the food? But he was awesome. He was so great to me, to my family, the stuff he did for the charity that I had, and just like he really took care of me coming back, into the starting rotation, put me back in the starting rotation after closing, and really set me up for the rest of my career. And I love the man.
And then what about this picture right here? You and Will Ferrell. Well, what happened that day?
Just a little bit of pizza, Eddie. Who doesn't have pizza pre-first pitch?
Pizza right before the first pitch?
Yeah, so I was catching the first pitch. Him and Zach Galifianakis were in doing press for the campaign. Mm-hmm. And Zach's somewhere in the background running around on the field while the whole thing's going on. He's going up and down the dugout going, does anybody see my inhaler? Where's my inhaler? And everyone starts panicking looking for his inhaler. And he just goes, I keep my weed in there. And we're like, what? Oh, okay. So he was having a blast.
No.
But Will decided to call in a pizza order from D'Agostino's, and he called in a delivery. So right as he's getting ready to throw the first pitch, a pizza delivery guy just comes out onto the field, and we just sat there and had a slice of deep dish.
Now, is that like the best? Is that like the best pizza in Chicago?
I might get in trouble from a few pizza owners, but D'Agostino's is my favorite. I like Lou Malnati's. I'm not a big Gino's East guy. Sorry, it's just not my jam. But D'Agostino's is the bomb.
Wait, hold on a minute. What about New York? Who are you kidding?
Well, I love New York style pizza.
All right.
Yeah, nothing better than grabbing a slice of Ray's and a cold one and roaming the streets at 3 a.m.
Well, that's true. A Ray's is nothing. You got to go to maybe Joe's late night.
I like Lombardi's. I go to Lombardi's down in Soho. I like that place.
All right, so now listen. Now you get to the Red Sox, right? I want to hear stories right now, all right? Especially this one, all right? We all know 2013, you go to the Red Sox, nice amount of money for 1 year or 2 year contract, whatever, right? So then, A-Rod comes back at Fenway. Now, be honest with me, Ryan. I'm not an A-Rod fan. I'll be honest with you. I don't think 13 years investment, one World Series title was good. I'm sorry. I mean, he wasn't an October player except that 1 year. So, was the plan before the game started, hey, Ryan, A-Rod's going to come up. I want you to peg him. I don't give a shit. Was that the plan?
No, never talked about with my coach. I was never told by one manager ever to hit anybody. Maybe you got to look. Mm-hmm. That was like earlier on. I never was told. That was my own doing. Me and my brothers having some cold beers, talking about how fun it would be to hit A-Rod at Fenway my first time I faced him, and it just happened to be then. And they were like, you'll never pay for beer in Boston the rest of your life. So it kind of started that way. And then everything that was going on and the suspension, which, right. I'm the last person there to judge. I wasn't judging. Then it became like, okay, now I'm going to, go after the union because you're not taking care of defending me. And then it was like, really, dude, like, at some point, like I've made plenty of mistakes, and I've had to own up for those mistakes. They've cost me things, um, and it is what it is. And so I was just like, all right, let's go for it. And I didn't want to like. I'm not a headhunter and never have been in my whole
Right. You
career.
didn't really hit him that hard. I mean, it was
No,
just
and plus I hit him on the elbow pad. Eddie.
right.
I mean, if
Exactly.
you're on all those steroids, why do you got to wear an elbow pad? But it was just like, it was fine. And then I get suspended for hitting a suspended guy.
Right.
So I took off. I had the best paid 5-day vacation I ever got. I went to Big Sur in Malibu for 4 nights and had a blast, and then met the team after Sunday Night Baseball in LA, and it was all great. And, yeah, I think there were a lot of people that were happy about it. Would I do it again? Probably. I wasn't judge, jury, and executioner. I'm not out there trying to prove a point like, oh, you
Right.
did this. It was just more like the rivalry and all of it. I do remember this. There was one reporter, I don't remember his name. When I went to Yankee Stadium, I thought there was going to be a bazillion reporters around my locker. I thought it was going to be a hoopla. And one guy said, listen, ever since you hit Alex Rodriguez, the Yankees have the second best record in baseball. And I said, oh, well, who has the first best record in baseball? He said, well, you guys. I said, all right, is there any other questions? And he just laughed and kind of made his point. Like, sure, did I fire their team up? Great, awesome. If that's what it takes, then that's shame on you. We were already fired up. We were already hell-bent on riding in duck boats in a parade. So to me, it didn't matter any, and it just brought
Right.
our team even closer together.
But the first pitch, I mean, it wasn't that even that hard that you threw, but you missed him. Like he kind of fell. It was way out, like way inside. But
Inside, behind him. It went
right
behind his
behind
legs,
him.
yeah.
Right.
And the next two, I wasn't throwing at him.
Right.
I
Right.
was just throwing inside because I'm like, I learned my lesson. As you can tell, later on in the game, I throw a fastball down and away, and he hits a home run straight away center field. So, it is what happened.
Right.
You know,
And according
yeah.
to his Instagram live with Pete Alonso, he said he wanted to hit your forehead.
And so, case in point, steroids work because all he wanted to do was hit a line drive back up the middle, and instead it went over the fence.
Right.
I mean, they work.
It worked
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So okay, so now
It's all good. A-Rod's doing great. He's crushing it on ESPN and Fox, and it doesn't seem too hard done by it all. And
no,
we
but
got a World Series out of it.
but here's the thing. Here's another thing. Joe Girardi was going nuts, and then I go to Miami.
That I felt bad for.
I go to Miami, and then you guys are like best friends down there because you like the radio host, right? Both of you guys for the Chicago Cubs.
We were calling TV for the Cubs game, that series, yeah. And that's the tough part. Like for me, I have a ton of respect for Joe, so that was like the tough part. It was to sit there and watch how Joe do what a manager would do and a good manager
Right.
would do: stick up for his team and his players no matter what. And he did that in that moment. Unfortunately, he got thrown out of the game and suspended.
Right.
Just not as many games as I got suspended for hitting a suspended guy.
But did you ever run into A-Rod? I mean, you're with the MLB.
I never have. No.
No?
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out. Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll have a cup of coffee and a donut together or something.
Yeah, it's history. Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Baseball, man. Nobody got hurt.
Right, exactly.
Nobody got hurt, and life goes on. Like I said, we're both in doing well and in good places.
All right, so now here's my question. After you guys won the World Series, and I asked my World Series players all the time, where did you party? Where was the party at? How much was the bill that night? I'm just saying, where did you guys party?
Well, first we partied in the sports corner, which was under the left field. We all went there. After that was probably like 2:30 in the morning, but it was highly packed with Red Sox fans, so it was hard to like truly let loose because we were letting loose, but it's you worry what might happen, what gets out there. Not that we were doing anything bad. It's just, things can be perceived as maybe abundance. And there was plenty of abundance. So we had a good time. And then about like 3:30 in the morning, we left there and we went to the field and the lights were all on. And I was with my mom and dad and my brother and my best friend, my now wife, bunch of people. And I threw batting practice. Mike O'Malley, Boston native, actor, writer, producer, good friend. He had some friends. I threw BP. I went over to John Henry. I grabbed Dustin Pedroia's game bat and a bucket of balls. And I went over to our owner, John Henry, and said, "Hey, John, listen, we were hugging. Congratulations." I said, "You might not want to stay around for this." So it's like, if you don't see, then it didn't happen, And he says, "What?" And he goes, "Okay, Ryan, have a good night." And he left. And I threw batting practice for 45 minutes to an hour to my family. And my cousin was roping one off the Coke bottle up top. We were peppering the Green Monster. It was not sober BP. I was not sober doing this. I had but I was running on this adrenaline high. Then we left there. We went to Daisy Buchanan's and stayed at Daisy Buchanan's until they kicked us out of there. And then we left there and went over to some diner at MIT and had breakfast and Bloody Marys and then walked home. And I'll never forget this. My dad is such a gamer. Like he is the Energizer Bunny. So he goes, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, right? And I go, Dad, I'm going to bed. And he goes, you're going to bed. You're going to bed. We just won the damn World Series and you're going to go to bed? He goes, you know what? I'm going to go up on the top I had a rooftop deck. He goes, I'm going to go up on the rooftop deck and smoke a cigarette and have a beer with the champions and the winners. You go to bed, son. Oh God. He put me to bed. I couldn't hang with him anymore, man. He wrote it out, man. Yeah, they loved Papa Demp. Wally was a hero there. He was admired by that team. They all dug him a lot. And we just had a blast. It just didn't end. You know, it was days after days of partying. Next thing you know, I'm at Lambeau Field, pregame on the field for Monday Night Football, Bears, Packers, and it just didn't stop. It was a blast.
Wait a minute. So Ryan, you're telling me that you guys partied until like 10 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Holy you don't go to sleep after you win the World Series. You figure it out. You know. Yeah, it was a good time.
Oh my God. So now I look at you and I say to myself, this guy should be an actor because he's got good impersonations. His voice and speech he could change real quick. You're pretty much a comedian. I mean, the story back then, you were on the Marlins. You're at Boston. You're going to start the next night. You tell the owner or the manager, listen, my name is Ryan Dempster. I'm going to start against your team. And there's an open mic. Can I come on? He's like, get the fuck out of here, really? He's like, yeah, all right, come on, right? So when did you like the entertainment business? Because that's what I noticed about you.
Oh, man. As a kid, I still remember, talking about my dad, my 6th grade birthday, turning, whatever, I'm in 6th grade. I think I was turning 12 or whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And we had an army tent in the yard with all my buddies. My dad set up for us to camp out overnight. And it gets kind of late, and now my mom's gone to bed and he comes in and he peeks in. He goes, hey boys, come on. And he takes us into the TV room and he goes, do not tell your mother I did this. And he threw on Eddie Murphy, Delirious. Oh my God. And I was just like, oh man, this is just, we're all swearing at school the next day like crazy and goody goo goo this, and like, just like having a blast. Like and he was the first one to took me to Yuck Yucks in Vancouver. And he was with me that night in Boston, and it was just like, let's just do this. Let's have some fun. And then when I got done playing, and that's kind of my personality, how I was as a teammate. I was goofing around. I'd do interviews with Billy Bob Teethan, and I dressed up as Gapper, the mascot, when I was with the Reds in Cincinnati for like 7 innings on a 4th of July. I almost threw up in that thing. But, just like, I just always loved that. And so, for me, I think it was like, my babysitter put it perfectly. I ran into my childhood babysitter a couple years ago, and she said, and this is when I started getting into doing stand-up comedy and hosting Off the Mound and doing these different things. She goes, when you became a baseball player, I was like, I never knew that about him. She goes, but when I found out you started doing stand-up comedy, it's like, oh yeah, I totally get it. She's like, you used to stand on the table in the kitchen and tell jokes to me all the time. So that was just kind of my personality and how I always was and how I am still to this day.
But it's respect for what you did. You actually went to the Improv in Chicago and took classes.
Yeah, IO Improv Olympics, which they are now starting back up. I got through four semesters, so hopefully I'll be able to finish up.
Look at you at the levels. You're increasing, huh? But people were like, when they found out you're a baseball player, like, what's going on? Well, why are you doing this, right? I mean, you have enough
for the money,
right?
Obviously. Yeah, right. Stand-up. I'm doing stand-up comedy for the money.
Right, so. Exactly. Oh, my God. So what kids were like, oh, my God, you were a professional baseball player? Because let me tell you something about improv classes. I took him acting school. They don't know sports. Most of them. 90% don't.
Oh, God, yeah.
So.
Nobody in there knew who every once in a while you'd have some guy in class just kind of keep looking at me, like, mm-hmm. And then I'd say, oh, my name's Ryan. And they'd be like, okay, maybe that's him. That's got to be him, like, as far as like anybody else, I mean, you're in the arts program. There's no paying attention to that. So, I learned a lot, just kind of getting through different classes, different lessons, different exercises, working on different stuff, and then doing stand up. I do I'll go around the Laugh Factory, the comedy bar here when I have time. I have 5 kids, so I don't have a lot of time for that. I have to Google Calendar when I'm going to say goodnight to each of them, so it's a lot. It's
Now, you were also part of the front office too with the Cubs?
Yeah, I was. I had a really unique experience like 2016, that whole run of 2015, 16. So after the 2014 season, I was officially retired, and I signed back actually for a 1-day contract to retire as a Chicago Cub.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a job as a special assistant to the president and general manager, Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer. And it just basically was be me, be around, be me, from recruiting players and telling them how great Chicago is to playing at Wrigley, to seeing guys in the minor leagues, to working with guys in spring training, to providing scouting day, whatever I could. But Theo just was like, hey man, just be you. Like, you're not that far removed from playing. You played with a bunch of these guys. I played with Lester and Rossi and Lackey. And so it just became this kind of like, I always said, this is true. It felt like I was on the 60-day DL with no chance at a rehab assignment. Like, the way the guys treated me, I played against so many of them. I played with them. I played with Rizzo and Travis Wood. I played against, Zobrist and all these guys. There was a lot of, the respect that they gave me blew me away. The way they treated me, to the point of like, when we rode home from the airport, and not a lot of people know this is a fun one, Eddie. When the bus brought that trophy back from O'Hare Airport to Wrigley Field, it sat with me and my wife in that front seat. So it was like, it was pretty, and that was Anthony Rizzo. He said, "Here you go, man." He carried it off the plane, and then we got on the bus. He said, "Here, you ride with it." And like, I'll never forget that, man. Like, that's stand in front of a train for a guy type stuff, and just it was pretty special, and continue to have small involvement. I always do whatever I can to represent the Cubs in the best way, and now calling games for them.
Did you get a rock with the Cubs too?
Yeah, I got them both. You want to see them?
I want to see 2 rocks right now.
Okay, give me
Come
1
right
second.
back. Don't hang up. Come right back.
30 seconds. People always say which one means more, and it's like,
well, they both
obviously.
Yeah,
they both have totally different significance, and like, I played in one, I didn't play in the other, and so let's start here with the Boston Red Sox, right there.
Oh wow, look at that! All right, hold on. Let me see the diamonds.
We got sapphires and rubies there.
Okay.
Right, and then you got the Boston Strong. You got all the diamonds going around the outside.
Oh, that's right. You had the Boston
yeah,
bombing that year in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I started that day at Fenway, and then on the inside we got the Bearded Brothers.
Oh wow!
Right, and then you got like it's all the date we won. Yeah. So they got little inscriptions and all this stuff. So pretty.
That's nice.
Pretty
That's actually a
awesome
nice
right
rock.
yeah.
I like the World Series crown right there.
Yeah, and the size of it, right? Like, I will say, the Cubs one, as you'll see when I put them up. So here's the Cubs one. Right?
Oh damn! Look at that thing.
But
Holy shit!
Bling bling.
Now, okay, so that's a meaning right there. I mean, it's been over 100 years. Oh my God!
Yeah,
look at
you
that.
Can see like, if you see the marquee. Oh, sorry, here, I'm trying to.
Go further back just a little bit. Go further back so I can get zoom in.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Dempster, yeah.
Yeah. And I think and then you got the marquee with the diamond and everything. There's 108 diamonds in there.
That's a hot rock.
And then this is my favorite part is, and I'm going to try and get it so you can see it. Look on the inside. Hold on, let me block that light. If you can see this.
I think I see something there.
It's a goat.
Oh,
so that was the curse of the goat on the inside right there. Right down under here, they put the goat in there. So, but then when you put them together, Eddie, like you can tell the difference. And like, they're big rings, but.
Yeah, but I'll go with that Cubs, man. That Cubs.
I mean, that is.
But, I wonder how the 04 ring looks like for the Red Sox. I'm sure that was...
It's nice, too. It's really nice, too. It's just different. It's gold. This is white gold with the diamonds. That one's gold with the diamonds. So, then teams started to go, like, really over the top. Like, the Marlins' first 97 ring, was normal. The 03 ring was over the top. And then the Blackhawks went over the top with a ring. And then football started to go over the top. Now you open them up and they show a full movie, and there's like you got like the Rockettes are dancing in there somehow, like Next thing you know, it's just gonna like pull out like some sort of alternate universe you can hop into for a minute. Like who knows? But they're pretty special, man. I do wear them. Like people like, do you wear them? And I do because like if I'm doing an event or something like that, there's a lot. People are obviously curious to those moments, and so there's a lot of meaning to them. But it depends. Sometimes I have worn both of this, one on each hand, and I always said like this is the best. This is a true story. No Nobu in New York City. I go in
No.
there with my wife, the two of us, no reservation, okay. And I'm like, oh shit, man, we're not going to be able to get a table. And I like, hold on, let me try something here real quick. And I'm watching people go up, and as I'm getting closer, I hear like, oh, an hour, hour and a half, all this stuff. And so I just walk up to the girl at the front, the hostess, and she was really sweet. I go, hey, I'm just looking. I was wondering, is there any chance like maybe I could get just like just two of us? Can I just do like a reservation for just two? Like, whatever you could get us in, that'd be great. And I just watched her go like, she's just falling around, and then all of a sudden she goes, hold on one sec. She leaves. She comes back. She goes, yeah, we can get you in right away. I'm like, yeah, it works. It
It
works. My
works.
open table. It's open table app right there. It's the best open table app there is.
Oh my God! Like,
Yeah.
oh my! I like Ryan. You had like an unbelievable career. I mean, it's like how many people could say that? And listen, after taxes, a $13 million a year contract. And I know you guys pay taxes in every city you play in. You're responsible. If you play in Boston, you're responsible for Boston. You play in, LA, you're responsible for LA taxes. After $13 million that you make a year, after taxes and agency and all that shit, what does it come down to?
About five.
What? 5
Yeah,
million.
I mean when you talk about chop it in half, that'll get you down to 6.5. Then you got agent fees. Then you got like clubhouse fees and dues for this, and maybe let's say let's closer to 6, 5.5, 6, somewhere in there.
And plus your living expenses. I mean, you do want to live good.
Oh yeah, I mean
Right.
yeah. So yeah, it doesn't go as far as it says on the end, but it's
Right.
still a ton more money than I ever dreamed about as a kid
Well, of
playing
course.
baseball for.
But here's the thing: you're cutting half of that money to expenses and taxes. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot. Yeah, and
So,
yeah,
no wonder why
a lot
these
of different
guys,
things that you need money for. Yeah.
right? No wonder what these guys want. Like, well, I want 40 million a year because they know 20 is going to. Oh, okay, I get it now.
They're getting a ton of money nowadays. They're getting big time money.
That's true. Now, Sean Casey, which one of my favorite, I interviewed him on my show. He's a great guy. I love him.
He's
Right?
awesome, man. He's the best. The mayor.
I like his personality shines, right? So I was like, hey, Sean, give me a story with them. He goes, ask him the story about when he told me to get electrolysis in Cincinnati. So tell me that story.
Twofold. First of all, so I get to the team. I've been with the team. I get traded over from the Marlins. I've been with the team for like a week, right? And we go on the road. We go to St. Louis, and we're staying at the Hyatt Union Station there, and the hotel room's way down the hall. Like they're big, long hallways. And I get to my hotel room, and my hotel room phone rings. And my hotel room phone never rang, like. So I pick it up, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, damn man, what's going on? It's Case. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, Case, what's up?" He goes, "Can you come down to my room, man? I have a big favor to ask." So I'm like, "Cool, dude. All right." Go down to his room, get down there, knock on the door. He comes in and goes, "Hey, man, listen, I know this might seem weird, okay, but I'm not trying to be weird, but like my wife's coming into town, and I haven't had a chance to manscape, and I was wondering, could you shave my back for me?" And I was like, and now I'm torn, right? Because I got to be a good teammate. I'm a new guy on the team. I think that's why he picked me, because he knew all the other guys would say no.
Right.
And I was like, I got you, dude. And he took his shirt off, and it was just like, Now, that all being said, I should have carved 21 in his back with his name. That would have been really funny. But that being said, I'm not one who's too light on back hair. I feel his pain a little bit. So I was like, all right. So now we're in Cincinnati, a couple months later, and I find this electrolysis place, and they type me up, and painful, sure, but not that painful. So I'm like, hey, Case, dude, I got a fix for you. Found this place, man. They're really great. You go in there. He's like, does it hurt? I said, no, it doesn't hurt, man. It's like just kind of like a mosquito bite, but less, And he says he goes in there, he gets the first treatment. He's just the whole time going, ow, 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 he's got to play that day, and he's just like out. He comes in, he looks like he's sunburned on his whole back. So then he's like, screw it, I'm not going back to that place. Well, the problem is if you don't do it like at least 3 or 4 times, it actually promotes hair growth.
Oh,
So he went
shit.
from looking like Casey to Chewbacca, dude. It was unbelievable. And he's like, hey, thanks for the electrolysis recommendation, Demp.
Did he tell you the story about Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yeah, he still got the Clippers.
Yeah, he still got the Clippers because it was like $80, $120. I don't know how much were the Clippers.
Yeah.
But, when Griffey was like, hold on a minute. You used it everywhere? Yeah, you can keep it, man. I told Sean Casey, he's like the Larry David of Curb Your Enthusiasm, his life story in the big league.
Oh, dude, he's unbelievable. He almost killed Bob Feller. I mean, he's just like, this dude is next level. It is like, I just went to Pittsburgh. I took my daughter to Pittsburgh, and she went and did the games with me and everything like that. And so we stayed at the Casey's because he's got a couple daughters. So I just, wanted to have somebody when I'm off at work. There's Finley calling the games to me. Unbelievable play-by-play announcer. And so she stayed there, and that's how he is when you live with them. Mm-hmm. He's just, it's love, it's live life, smile, let's go, let's move forward, positive, be grateful for what we have.
Yeah.
And she even said it, she's like, man, that's just a really happy house, and I was like, yeah, all the time. It's just how he is. He lives life that way.
He's the
best.
Guy.
He's the best. He's the absolute best. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's listen, this like when he's the mayor, he's the mayor. That's why they love him.
Hey, just known by everybody, It's just like old time players, new players, everybody loves Sean Casey. Everybody in Pittsburgh. I mean, you get like I was telling people like vendors at the park, oh, I'm seeing Sean Casey. Oh, tell Sean I said hi. I'm like, how do you know Sean Casey? It's just like he knows everybody.
So now speaking of your daughter, I know like when she was born, you went through a lot, right? Like something happened to her.
Yeah, and that's Finley, my 11-year-old, and Riley, my 13-year-old. Finley, coincidentally, you notice she doesn't have any hair. She got alopecia. So alopecia areata. So we're hopefully, fingers crossed for her, she's got a medicine that she's going to start that will hopefully promote some hair growth for her. It's tough, man. She had beautiful long blonde hair and went through that. And this is after her daughter, or her sister, my daughter Riley, born with a partial deletion of her 22nd chromosome.
Right.
Called 22q deletion syndrome, DeGeorge syndrome. Back then, not a lot known about it, and it's come like, in the 13 years since she's been born, and she's played a large part in this. We shared her story. Her mom and I started a foundation, and it's the second most common genetic syndrome in the world behind Down syndrome. People don't realize that. They didn't even know about it, but it just affects kids all differently. And from sharing her story, Eddie, the amount of letters we've got from people, doctors who've actually said like, thank you for teaching us about this. When she was born at Children's Hospital, or in Arizona, we transferred up to Children's Hospital in Chicago, and they were calling Philadelphia. They didn't know anything about it. And now there's an entire 22q clinic there. They know all about it. It's got across the nation. The work that the ladies who ran the foundation for us were amazing. And then, just the families and around the country that have continued to do it it's just awareness is everything. Awareness is everything because it makes people understand, and then they can ask questions, and then they get early intervention, and then you end up like Riley. I mean, she's 13 years old in 8th grade, and she's just a normal teenage girl now, which is trouble.
So Riley, this is your daughter right here. Wait, she's the one
that's
that
Finley.
Went through it? No, she didn't go through it.
That's her
Riley,
sister.
right? Okay.
Riley did, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And but was it hard? When she was born, was it hard to pitch? Was it hard to focus? I mean, you're human. It's really hard to do that, right? While you have a child in the hospital?
Yeah, I think sometimes it was, for sure. It was hard from a physical standpoint because, on days I wasn't there, I was over at the hospital staying with her. And, then from a mental standpoint, just dealing with everything, it is. You realize, and I'm not the only person going through something. I just happened to say something so people know about it. A lot of people go through stuff and never say anything.
Right.
And it was hard. And there was moments, I think sometimes it was a safe haven, the baseball field. It was a chance for me to just go breathe. And, especially after I talked about it, it was like, all of a sudden I felt this freedom of just like, okay, now just go play baseball. But there were moments, like I remember pitching against Milwaukee. I was losing 3-2 going into the bottom of the 8th inning. And the day before I'd done a blood transfusion because Riley had to have an operation. So I did the blood transfusion because we're the same blood type. And then I drove up to Milwaukee and I pitched. And in the 8th inning, Ryan Braun hit a home run off me and he pimped it like crazy. And I just remember just watching him go around the bases and I wanted to just go tackle him. And I just like, really, dude? Like, you're going to style a home run off me right now? Like that, he doesn't know what I'm going through, and it's Cubs Brewers, it's a rivalry and all this kind of stuff. But I was just like, and there's nothing, he couldn't have stopped me. He was going to need his teammates. I don't care. It was like, if I wanted to go after him right there, that's how mad I was, because of what I was dealing with on a personal level. But
do you think
thankfully I was able to just come down.
Do you think if he knew what you were going through, do you think he wouldn't like pimp it?
I sure hope so. If he didn't pimp it, I was going to go running. Yeah, it's like, I didn't do anything because it's like he doesn't know, and it's really, he doesn't need to know. Nobody needed to know there.
But nowadays, listen, you could pimp it now. They don't give a shit. The game completely changed.
Oh yeah, happy feelings. As long as you let the kids play. As long as all the emotions are happy.
Well, that's what I mean. It. But here's the thing,
you can't have mad emotions. Like I always said that. I mean this. I'm totally fine with bat flips and pimping home runs.
Right.
Because that's their feeling, right? They feel emotional right there. Just understand that a guy that's 60 feet 6 inches away might also have feelings.
Right.
And those feelings might be mad, frustrated, angry, pissed off. And so they might come out and surface. We can't suppress those emotions. If we're going to allow the happy emotion, we got to have balance in life. You got to allow the mad emotion. And that might be your teammate might wear one in the ribs. I'm just saying. Right.
Well, listen, it's being human. I mean, that's what they taught us in acting school.
Thank you.
Be human. You can't be always smiley, and next thing you know, your daughter's in the hospital struggling. You can't be, hey, you know what I mean? You're feeling her, man.
You can't be Pedro Serrano in Major League 2 going, that was a good pitch, man.
Good pitch. I cannot hit curveball. So now, what are you doing now? Are you still with the MLB Network?
No, if they ask me to do some stuff, I'm there. I'm based out of Chicago now, so I'm working for Marquee Sports Network, the Cubs regional sports network, and calling games, doing studio work. I host Off the Mound. It's kind of this sort of format, but in a whether we do studio, I love the live performances. We do them at Innings Fest, a big music festival in Arizona in February, and then we're doing in Tampa in March. We do 4 shows over the course of 2 days of the festival. We bring on guests and we highlight their stuff they do. I had down in Florida last year, I had Bronson Arroyo up singing, and with our band, we have a band, the Hemispheres, that plays with us, and we have guys. Jake Peavy gets up there and sings. Bernie Williams is out there.
In Florida?
Innings Fest, yeah. So we do Innings Fest Arizona in February, and then we do Innings Fest Florida. Just actually got to announce today. If you go to Instagram, you can see Innings Fest Florida, which is in Tampa, right off the Raymond James Stadium there. Yeah, so headliner music wise, we got Imagine Dragons is playing.
Nice.
You got the Avid Brothers. I'm trying to remember who else was getting. Marcus Mumford.
Wow.
Arizona is like Green Day, Eddie Vedder. We got a really
Eddie
awesome
Vedder
lineup. Yeah, so Ed will hopefully be stopping by the show. He came last time he did the show, and we have actually with Sean Casey. He was telling a story about he was doing a show in Italy, and this person's holding up a giant massive head of Sean Casey.
Yeah. And
he's like, here I am in Italy, and Sean Casey's making an appearance. So Ed came walking out with the actual Casey head from the show there. So we just have a blast. Same sort of thing, telling stories, but getting to know guys on a more personal level.
And listen, I want to congratulate you too, as far as the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Look at you.
Yeah, man, what an honor. Growing up as a kid in Canada, to think about playing in the major leagues is one thing, but then to be inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame with, all the great names. Fergie Jenkins was the one who put my jacket on me as I got inducted, and I got inducted with Gordash, Jason Bay, and Phillies manager Rob Thompson got inducted in, former Yankee coach for a long time. He's got 5 rings there as a coach, and now he's hoping to get one as a manager of the Phillies. It's pretty incredible.
You know what's crazy? When I played college baseball, he came up to me. He's like, hey, lefty, man, you could hit, man. You could hit. I'm like, who you with, man? He goes, I'm with the Yankees. I'm like, what? Sign me right now. He's like, well, I got to see more. Yeah. I was like, wow.
Airfare. That's all I want. Just give me airfare and a uniform. Let's
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Playing for the home team. What? The Yankees? And what people don't realize with Rob Thompson, man, he paid his dues, man. This is like his first time being as a head manager, right?
Yeah, never played Major League Baseball. Played a little bit of minor league baseball for the Tigers.
Right.
And then, gets in the coaching ranks, and this, we had 4 guys go in, and he, by far, his speech was incredible. And, just, his determination to be a great coach, to just put all the praise on the players. A guy that was working with infielders in the minor leagues when Jeter came through.
Right.
Like this is real stuff, and played a big part in a kid who was making 50 errors in the minor leagues to being the captain. So, I mean, just there's nothing in the game that he's not accomplished to be a part of. And I was so happy, unfortunately with Joe getting let go, but when he got the opportunity to step in and be the manager and to see what he's done and, have a chance to take his team to the World Series and ride this high on they're on right now, I'm just super happy for him.
Ryan, one of my favorite players is Barry Bonds, I'll be honest with you. How do you throw to that guy, man? How do you throw?
You don't.
You don't, right? You can't throw straight.
Just go to first base.
Well, throw those splitties on the dirt. Hopefully he chases, which he won't.
Yeah, he was the best baseball player I ever played against. I ever watched live. I actually had a chance to play as his teammate on an all-star tour in Japan. And I told a story to somebody the other day. This is funny. So Livan Hernandez is pitching. He's with the San Francisco Giants. And it's day 3, and Barry's off. Barry was off. Barry got paid way more than we all got paid to go over there, and he was off. And he was just there for the appearance, like whether or not he did good. We all have pride when we're over there, of course, but it's an exhibition tournament. We're having a good time. So Levo's pitching. Bobby Cox is our manager. And Barry's sitting on the bench. And this third baseman, Nakamura, that played for the Dodgers really briefly in the big leagues. He came over and had a little small stint. But he was a big guy over there. The power hitter, hit a lot of home runs, and he'd yell bonsai after he hit a home run. Like if it was like, and the crowd would go nuts, So he hits a home run off Livan Hernandez, and he yells bonsai. And Barry just goes, oh, hell no. Bobby, put me in. I don't care who you got to take out. Put me in the game. And he gets up. He starts stretching. He's getting all ready. I want to say maybe I don't remember it came out of the game. He proceeds to just destroy the team for 5 more games. We played exhibition games. You got a $10,000 for winning player of the game for each game. I think he won 3 or 4 of the next player of the games. I mean, it was like grand slam homers, throwing guys out, stealing bases, doubles in the game. You couldn't get him out. So he just he was the best. And then, so then I go play with him, right? And I watch all this happen, and he's just it's home run central. It's just nuts what he's doing. And so then we come back and we're having a pitcher's meeting. We're playing the Giants, and Larry Rothschild's like, all right, Barry Bonds, we got to pound him inside and keep him honest. And I stood up. I said, no, we don't. No, we don't pitch him inside. He goes, well, you got to keep him away from the outside part of the plate. I go, if we miss by this much, it's in the cove, Larry.
Right.
I am not throwing him a fastball inside. I'm throwing him away. If it's a fastball inside, it is a ball. It is never a strike. Yeah, he was so incredibly talented. It's a shame everything that went on, because leading up to all that, he was the best player playing, and yeah.
Ryan, what's a crazy story? When I was living in LA, when I was auditioning, instead of bartending or waiting tables, I was giving batting lessons. So I was in West LA. I'm wearing my Yankee jacket. You know how it is in LA, gets chilly at night in the month of March. And he gives me an urban hug. And he thought I was one of the parents. And I said, listen, buddy, you look familiar from somewhere, right? And he goes, oh, yeah? I'm like, oh, shit, listen, you're that guy from Arizona State, that lefty that hit bombs. He looks at me, he's like, you New Yorkers know how to fuck with people, right? I'm like, come on. I'm like, come on, Barry, that was a good one, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, man, I like you. Sit down, let's talk. We talked 2 hours about the game. Talking hitting.
He talks hitting, man. He loves baseball. He loves talking hitting. There's a shield up there. If you can get through the shield like you did, when you get through the shield, there's a big giant teddy bear behind that.
But like I said to myself, everyone's saying that, oh, he's an asshole, this and that. I'm like, he loved me. He's cool
Yeah.
as hell with me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have that personality. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I told him, I said, Barry, you know how some hitters, announcers, they say, oh, you have to look for a certain pitch, this and that. He goes, no, I don't believe in that. I said, well, what do you look for? He says, I draw a circle. And if that ball's in that circle, whether it's a slider, changeup, or fastball, I'm crushing it. It's just that simple. I'm like, yeah, but you had a tight zone too. He goes, didn't I deserve it? I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I said if he didn't swing with 2 strikes, it was a ball.
Right.
Like,
Even if it was on the edge, right?
If it was on the edge, if you could break that down when that box was floating around on TV when he was playing, pretty good chance that ball was outside the box. He didn't swing it. He didn't swing a ball.
Especially a Sunday night ESPN game. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a ball, buddy. Listen, you've been awesome, Ryan. I can't wait till I upload this. And then what happens is when I go on Instagram, I'll tag you. You just put it on your Instagram. A mini clip, But let me end this.
Nice working through the technical difficulties today.
We came through, baby. Yeah. There's no panicking. You gotta relax, loosen up.
Improv. All improv.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't go anywhere. Hold on a minute. Let me just finish this.
Hey, this is Ryan Dempster, former Major League Baseball player. I had a great time with Eddie Mata. That's right, sitting down, talking baseball and life. Check out all his social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Don't miss it. Join us in the podcast. It was the best.